Okay. I don't know if I'm. Let's see. Okay. I think we're live. Cool. So if anyone is here, I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me. Let me see. Hello, hello. Perfect. Okay. I think we are good. I'm just going to pull up the reference here and then we can get started. Okay. I love being able to see the reference photo. Oh, good. Hi, Holly. Perfect. Yeah, I did a bunch of research yesterday on how to do split frames and different angles and stuff. So hopefully this is good for you guys. I thought we'd start with this reference. I did have plans to like take you guys with me on like a virtual plein air trip where we go on Google Maps and kind of pick a reference together. But I thought for the first time it might just be easier to pick the reference and just go from here. And then in the future, I'd love to do that because that is a really common way that I pick references, and it's really fun because you can kind of just go anywhere in the world. So. Holly, I don't know if anyone else is here, so I'm gonna ask you, can you just like let me confirm that you can hear me clearly? I just checked on my iPad and it sounded pretty good, but just want to be totally sure that you guys can hear me. And I'm just gonna set up my brushes here, get my paints out. Hopefully while some people show up. Sound going over there. Oh, there's an echo. Let's see. Okay, you guys are my guinea pigs this time, so let's figure it out. I'm gonna mute this. Let me know if that helped. Hello, hello, hello. Is there still an echo? Hi, everybody joining. Thanks, Holly. We're trying to get the sound figured out. Sounds like you can hear me, but there's an echo. Okay, I'm good now. Okay, I think I just needed to mute my computer. So, cool. Okay. Let's just jump right in. I don't know how many people are going to show up today, so this is the first session, and we're going to just paint a gouache mini together. For those of you who don't know, I am in the process of painting 100 of these little guys, and this is number 98, I think. So we're getting really close. Oh wait, it's back. Damn it. Okay, let's see. Let me double check that my iPad doesn't have its volume on. Oh wait, you know what? I think it did. Let's see, that might have fixed it. Okay, it's actually a pre-echo. Like your computer has a premonition of what you're going to say and says it before you say it. Weird. Yeah, I think there's a bit of a lag on YouTube Live because I have it on my screen here on my iPad just to make sure that it's all looking good, and it looks like it's like a few moments behind me. So yeah. I just muted this screen here, my palette screen. So let me know if that took care of it. I think that was the only other. That's the only other device. So hopefully that took care of it. Okay, cool. Thanks, Holly. Thanks for being patient. Okay, let's get started. Holly, this might just be like a me and you party, which I'm fine with. So I put the reference up here. This is just a reference from the website Unsplash. And if you don't know what Unsplash is, it's a website that shares a bunch of license-free images that you can use as references, or people use them for all different kinds of reasons. Oh damn! I wonder why it still has that. Okay, that definitely has volume. That's muted. And the iPad is muted. Yeah, I wonder what that is. I'm not hearing myself because I have everything muted. Here, let me see if I put it on. I'm just going to put the volume on my iPad just so I can maybe hear what you're hearing. So let me know if that took care of it. I think that was the only other. That's the only other. Oh yeah, weird. Oh yeah, weird. I'm hearing it too. It is like a pre-echo. That's hilarious. Is your own audio on in your room? Maybe you need to wear headphones. Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, let's get started. Let's see. It might just be like a me and you party, which I'm fine with. Okay, give me 1 minute. I'm gonna grab my headphones. Maybe that'll fix it. Actually, I have some right here. Hi, Rosa. Bear with me. We're just getting the sound figured out. Oh, you know what? I think let's see if this works. I just plugged in an external microphone to my laptop, and it looks like the audio is reading on the computer, and I muted everything else. So let's see if this works. Hello, hello. Oh. It sounds good to me on my end. I just have my headphone connected to my iPad so that you guys don't have to hear me a million times. It's sounding good to me. Whoever's here, if you want to give me a confirmation that it sounds okay to you, I think we might be okay. Okay, cool. No echo. Perfect. Okay. I think we should be good. Hopefully. I'm going to put this reference here. Happy to paint along with you with the echo, and I'm also happy to hop on the internet and help you try different things to see what works. Perfect. Rosa, no echo. No echo. Yay! Perfect. Okay. Let's get started. I think this is the answer. I have to use an external microphone. So, easy peasy. Thanks for helping me figure that out, guys. Can I ask a question? Why are we using pink as a first layer instead of burnt sienna, for example? So it's totally personal preference. I just am a sucker for opera pink. I do use burnt sienna sometimes, or like yellow ochre to give it like a warmer ground. But I've noticed that whenever I use opera pink, there are these just little spots where the pink pokes through that I really love. But total preference, you can paint however you would like. I always say I am still learning a lot myself about painting. So I'm, not really, my plan with these lives is that they are just a time for us to paint together, and I'm happy to share any knowledge about supplies or decisions I'm making with you all. But yeah, I wouldn't consider myself like a teacher or anything. So, but happy to share everything that I've been learning myself over the last few years. So, yeah. So I'm just gonna double check, make sure this is all dry. It's looking good. So this reference we're using, I already said, but is from a website called Unsplash, which is a really cool website. If you don't know about it, you should check it out if you're ever looking for references. There's just like tons and tons of references, especially for landscape painting, and Oh, you're so welcome, Rosa. Am I saying Rosa or Rosa correctly? So, what were they saying? Yeah, so there's tons of references there for landscapes. They also have references for portraits, which are really cool too. But and you're legally allowed to use the references for painting. So, yeah. So let's just jump right in. This is a reference of Colorado, which is where I live, and this is a really pretty reference. I love all the pinks and the yellows in that midsection there. I am going to switch up the composition a bit because I feel like the road coming toward us is a little bit intense. And I also feel like the clouds in the sky are a little bit too much with all the trees and everything on the ground level. So let's jump in. I'm going to be using a watercolor pencil to just draw some lines to act as sort of place markers for where I'm going to put stuff. And I really love how the mountains in the background are just that really beautiful, like hazy blue. It's like one of my favorite things to paint because it just creates that depth really, really quickly when you can lighten that value in the background. Okay, let's see. So I think I'm gonna bring the tops of those faraway mountains a bit higher up since we're not going to go crazy on these clouds. And I am noticing how the kind of middle section of those trees, that like strip of trees in front of the mountains, comes a bit higher than the faraway mountains. So I'm going to create that shape first, I think. Feel free to ask questions or tell me about what you're painting. I'd love to chat while I paint today. That's why we're here. Okay, there's that little dip in the middle. I don't want it to match perfectly with this line, so I'm going to bring it a little further over. And then that one can go up here. Yeah, I like that. Okay, and then there is this road that's kind of snaking through. It's pretty subtle, so I think I'm going to just suggest that a bit. And I'll draw these lines here. It kind of gets covered up. And then I'm going to bring it back this way just to make that a little bit more interesting. Okay, and then we've got all this foreground in the reference is really pretty, but I'm thinking it's going to be too much information for this. So we've got that one kind of strip of trees here. So we know that this area is going to be quite a bit darker as well as here. I do want to create one more section here, I think. And actually, I'll just have that kind of hug the road. Yeah, and then these trees that are on the top of this area will be a darker spot as well. So we don't have too much room here to play with these pretty like reds and yellows, but I think that's okay. So this is all going to be kind of mid-tony. Is that a wooden board or paper you're painting on? Yeah, this is a book holder, I think they're called. It's on Amazon. It's linked on my Instagram under supplies. I have it highlighted. Or if you just search in Amazon for book holder or like a recipe book holder, I think people use these for those a lot. Or like an iPad holder, anything like that. That's what this is. And it's
works really well, actually. I just broke I had a smaller version, and I just broke that by accident. So I just ordered a new one because I really like these. They're not super big. They don't take up a ton of space, but they are really nice because there's several different angles that you can put them at, and I don't like to paint flat. So yeah, check that out. They're really affordable too. I think they're like $15 or something. Okay. So I do really like how this foreground is much darker than this section back here. So I'm just gonna just put a line here just to kind of remind me that I want to make sure that value is a lot darker. Okay. Okay. I think that's good. Okay. Let's jump in here. Rosa and Holly, are you guys painting? Are you painting with me? Okay, so I'm gonna start. I think I'm gonna start with the sky. I don't have a foolproof way of doing this. It tends to change up a bit. Like I don't work dark to light or mid to light to dark or light to dark or anything. I just try to feel it out for each piece. I think for this one, I want to see what this lightest value is going to be, which is going to be the sky plane. I think, I'm not even sure if I'm going to include any clouds. I might just kind of give it like a uniform light blue value. Just because I feel like there's a lot going on the ground, and I don't want to distract from that too much. And if you guys are painting, let me know what medium you're using. Cool. I'm really excited because I've been trying to get my hands on these gouache paints forever. They're Royal Talons gouache, which I've used Royal Talons gouache that I've gotten like at my local art supply store before, but they come in tubes. And there's this other kind of gouache, or sorry, it's the same. I think it's the same kind of gouache, but they are only sold in Europe and they come in jars. And oh, cool, Rosa. Well, I am a big believer in just jumping in, so feel free to jump in and just make a bad painting if you need to. I mean, that's kind of how you just get started. And like I said, happy to share any questions you have. Anyway, I have been looking forever for these Royal Talons gouache that come in these glass jars, and I can't find them anywhere in the U.S. I found them in a few stores in Europe, but none of them shipped to the U.S., and I was getting so bummed because I think I'm going to be in Europe this fall, so I was like, okay, I'll just have to wait till then. But I found a store in Spain called Arte Miranda, and not only do they ship to the U.S., they offer free U.S. shipping if you spend more than like $100, and they had all the gouache that I wanted, and it was really affordable. So I'm so excited, and it's getting here it's like getting here weirdly quickly. Like I ordered it a couple days ago, and it's already going to be here on Thursday. It's like in Ohio already. So I'm very excited about that, and I'm really excited to try this gouache out. Okay, let's see. So I think I'm going to try to get this value of these furthest back trees, just so I can see how dark I need to go for these mountains. And they're kind of sagey, because since they're further back, they're definitely like a bit bluer. Let's see if that works. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow ochre. Yeah, this looks too light to me right now, but I think it might work because I think it's going to darken up a bit. What's the name again? I heard Arte Maraja. Close. Arte Miranda would be how it's spelled. Miranda. Yeah, so I keep having this thought that like maybe they're going to show up and they're just going to be the tubes after all that, but hopefully not. By the way, greetings from Ukraine. I found your Instagram account a few days ago, and I'm so happy to see the technique behind your painting. Oh, thank you. It's so nice that you're here. The internet is so crazy. I connected with a woman from Spain during the last live, and we've spoken since, and it's just so nice that people from like all over the world can hang out and paint together. No, your English is great. And yeah, I encourage you to just jump in. I feel like, so I tried to come up with a name for these live sessions because I have this dream of hosting painting trips in different parts of the world. And I was like, oh, this might be a really nice kind of precursor to that. I want to start hosting some plein air meetups here in Colorado locally. But I was like, God, it would be so cool to have like a group of people, you know, meet somewhere beautiful and just plein air paint and go to like art museums and paint each other's portraits for like a week straight. So that's kind of like a far off dream of mine. And I was like, oh, this might be a really nice way to introduce the idea of like painting together and, you know, get people used to this idea of like, you can come as you are, at whatever level you are, and you know you're gonna have something very valuable to share with everybody. So, yeah. So I got sidetracked. This idea of no bad P/arts is a play on the no bad parts idea from IFS and which stands for Internal Family Systems. So like parts work, which you can look into. There's like a whole world of information out there, but that's something that I've been doing for a long time with my therapist, and it's just really powerful and special. And I wanted to kind of bring that energy into what I'm doing here because I feel like it's really powerful. Cool. Yeah, you'll have to come. I'm thinking the first one should be somewhere in the UK. I really love the UK, and I haven't been back since before COVID. I used to go pretty often. My brother lived in London, and I'm a photographer, so I would always try to like book sessions to kind of get out there. But like I said, since COVID, I haven't really been able to get back out there. And there's so many spots that I want to go and paint at because the last few times that I was there, I wasn't doing plein air painting, which like kills me now because I'm like, oh my god, I was in all those beautiful countrysides and I didn't have my easel with me. So that's something I really want to do. Love that idea of hosting a painting trip for you. Love that idea for me to come to. Haha. Fingers crossed that my business stays okay so I can save up and join. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to try to find ways to keep it like relatively affordable. and since I'm not going to be like teaching, there won't be any kind of workshop fee or anything. It'll just be like, the plans for the trip, a little extra for just like my time for planning it, and then we'll just hang out for a week somewhere beautiful. You can zoom in on the painting a bit. Oh yeah, for sure. Here, I have to do it on my computer, but I can definitely do that. It might get a little crazy for a second because I have to like bring it off the screen to make it bigger. Let me know if that's zoomed in enough. I don't know if that made a huge difference. Let me try again. Okay, I think, let me know if that looks good to you. Okay. So just getting these far off trees, they're a little bit too green to me, so I'm just gonna red them up. My favorite way to dull down shades of green, especially for far off suggestions, like for trees or shrubs or whatever, is Venetian red is just like the prettiest red, I think, to mix with green. So let's do that. Yeah, see how much kind of dulled that green down quite a bit, which I love. And then I just added a little bit of yellow to just hit a few spots to kind of suggest a little bit more light on some of these areas. Okay, and then get some of this on this side. Okay, so now I can see the difference here between the sky value and this far off tree value. I do want to, I'm a little worried that these trees in the back have gotten a little too dark now that I put that reddy value on it, or that red color. So I'm just gonna throw in a little bit of some light spots here and just kind of blend them in. Oh, don't apologize, ask any questions. So I'm using mostly watercolor brushes. I typically have different sizes in flats. Flats are probably my go-to, or they've been my go-to for a while. Usually like a 3/4 inch flat, a 1/2 inch flat, and then like a smaller, this is a 1/4 inch. And these have been my go-to for the last couple of years. I can, typically paint an entire piece with just flat. But I recently started playing around with more rounds. So this is a number 2 round because I started using them for portraits in gouache. And I've noticed that you can get really cool textures with the rounds. So since I've been learning how to paint, I feel like the kind of repeating thing that I hear is that you should stick with brushes that are bigger than what you're comfortable with. And, I think the reasoning is that we want to make sure that we're not like noodling away at a painting and we're not overworking a painting, which I totally agree with. And I feel like painting with bigger brushes does really help that for sure. But with that said, I've been experimenting with smaller brushes lately, and I've been really enjoying the different kinds of textures that you can get with it, especially when you're like rolling a brush like this around. I think it creates really pretty texture. And maybe because I've been using such large brushes for the last few years, I'm not feeling like it's affecting how much detail I'm putting into a piece, if that makes sense. So yeah, you know, play around, see what works for you. As far as brands go, I don't really have, Princeton brand is a good one. I really like these silver ruby satin brushes with these green handles. These are sold in my local art supply store, so these are really easy for me to get when I need something quick, and they're actually really nice and pretty affordable, and they hold their shape really well. So I like those. And then Rosemary and Co. brushes, which are based out of the UK, are amazing. Every time I get a new brush set from them, I'm like, what magic do they put in their brushes? And they just seem like a really cool company. I think it's like a mom and her it's like a family-owned business, you know. Okay, I just got some yellow ochre, a little bit of alizarin crimson, and so I'm looking at this lighter value right below the trees, and that's looking really sagey, minty green to me. And then we quickly go into this like beautiful oranges and kind of pinks and stuff. So let's see. I think I'm gonna try to get some of this green down quickly just to see how much room I have for the oranges. Yeah, these are all synthetic brushes. I think I might have a couple of bristle. I mean, I have bristle brushes for when I'm oil painting, which I don't do very often. But yeah, with gouache, synthetics are awesome. Probably one of the biggest reasons why I like gouache so much is because of how easy it is to take care of your brushes when you're painting with gouache. I feel like I have not found my groove with how to care for my brushes with oil. Like, I feel like even when I wash them right away after a session, they just like feel like they get ruined really easily. Okay. So I'm going to let that dry before I go back in with the oranges, and I'm going to try to get this value in the back here. It's pretty gray, just like straight gray in the reference. A really easy, quick way to push something back in the distance is to lighten its value and to add a little bit more blue to it. And yeah, so we'll try that, and we're gonna probably go a lot lighter than we think because gouache tends to darken up quite a bit when it dries. Yeah, Holly, same. I feel like gouache is definitely, it's just so much less stress when you have kids. I really tried to make oil work for me, and it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I haven't given up on it. I think there will probably be a time when I can, create space for it in my life. But I just don't know if that time is right now with little kids. So I think this looks good to me. Let's see, I might get a little. And I think what I'm going to have to do is lighten up this sky a teeny bit. And I'll probably just do that with some dry brushing of like a warm white over the top of it. Also, gouache is just like amazing. I feel like you can paint with it a lot like oil. It's so easy to clean up. I love how it handles. I know it's a little weird. Like I've heard a lot of people, especially people coming from oil or acrylic, and they're just like, what is this like milky weirdness? And I totally understand why it would feel strange to people at first, but I don't know. It's definitely my favorite. Can you guys see the painting okay? So there is one section in front of these faraway mountains that I'm not sure that we need to include, but we could probably literally make like a single mark to suggest it. But there's this other kind of plane of trees, and I'm just darkening up this value that I use just a teeny bit, and I might just kind of place that in here. See if that makes a difference. Cool. Okay, good. Okay, so we've got basic shapes for tree. So usually what I like to do is get kind of just the color in or the values in, and then I'll go back in and see where I think needs more detail. It's a bit blurry for me, but I'm still following along. Okay, cool. That's why I asked, because I thought it looked a little blurry on my screen here too. And I wonder if it's because we're too zoomed in. So let me see. I know you wanted it to be closer, but let's play and see if that makes a big difference, because if it does, then we'll know. Thanks for troubleshooting this stuff with me, guys. I thought that maybe, yeah, I don't know if it's the internet connection. I can double check something with that, because they are on different devices. So we'll check and see if that makes a big difference. I don't think it's a camera quality thing, because this is a better camera than what's on the what is on the palette. So see if this gets any better. Still looks a little blurry to me on my screen. So I am gonna just zoom back out quite a bit to see if that makes a big difference, because it doesn't look blurry on my actual camera, but oh yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. No, I really appreciate it, Holly. Thank you. These are the things that I wanted to figure out today, so let's see. I'm gonna look at okay, let's see. That looks I'm gonna try to get a little closer with the actual camera and see if that makes a difference. I will have this thing kind of in my face, but let's see if that makes a difference. It's still blurry, huh? What is going on? Okay, so I don't think that mattered too much. this might be what it is. I'm going to try one more thing, and then if that doesn't clear it up a bit more, then we might just be doing this today. And then I think I'll know for next time, maybe to switch the cameras up a bit. Okay. Let's see. Let me know if that looks any better to you. It looks a bit better to me. Okay. So let's get back into the painting. So we've got this pretty green here. I'm going to zoom into it a little bit more because I feel like it's a little hard to see right now. Okay. Okay, let's get some of these pretty ochre and rust colors in here. The yellow is really bright, so I think what I might do actually is get just like a super vibrant, light yellow to start with, and then I'm going to layer on some ochre so we can maybe get those colors to pop. So I want this mid-ground here to have the brightest sections of color, which is why I'm putting in this lighter ground. So that way, whenever I put on those ochres and those oranges, oh good, it looks better. Thank you, Rosa. They'll pop a little bit more off the canvas if they're on top of a white or a light value like that. And because I want those colors to be really vibrant in here, I'm going to let this area totally dry before I go in with any color. And when I do go in with color, I'm going to try to keep it really textured and kind of dry brushy. So while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to try to get this section here. So to get this really dark green, I'm going to mix some ivory black with some yellow ochre and a little bit of cad yellow. I said it on my last Instagram live, but one of my favorite ways to mix greens is with ivory black and some kind of yellow. I started putting ivory black on my palette because I liked using the Zorn palette when I was doing portraits. And I realized that it creates this beautiful muted green that I've become pretty attached to now, so I just always have it on my palette. So I want this green to be a lot darker than this back section of trees. And right now it is darker. It doesn't look as dark as I'd like it, but I'm going to let it dry before I make my final decision. And then this side doesn't have the same kind of bold spot, bold area of trees. It really just has a few scattered throughout. I'm not going to put all of them in because I think that's going to look too busy. I might just put one in actually. So I'm trying to look at the reference and see if any of the shapes of the trees are really standing out to me. There's one that's a bit angled that looks interesting. Let's see if we can get. So I want to be conscious of like where that tree is going to go and what do I want it to interrupt back here. I think it would look cool if it interrupted this section. So I'm just going to kind of create a line here. Crazy about how this trunk looks, but that's okay. Once that dries, I'll kind of reshape it with some of those warmer tones that I'm going to be going in with. Are you guys painting, or I know, Rosa, you said you weren't painting quite yet, but Holly, are you painting the same reference that I am, or are you doing something different? So here I'm just going to mix a few piles of some warm tones in different values. So the values of these warmer tones are quite a bit darker than I want them to be, but because I have that base of this really light value here, I'm trying to just kind of, texture in some of these colors just so they're there, but they're not kind of overpowering the area. I'm following along with what you're doing a bit. I'm a beginner. I have been going through Wilshaw's backlog on her Patreon stuff, and this is so different. Oh, cool. I don't know Ruth Wilshaw. I'll have to look them up. I got to get on the Patreon train. My husband's really into Patreon because he does, he's really into RPG stuff, and he paints miniatures, so there's a lot of that, I guess, on Patreon. So he backs a lot of things and backs a lot of projects and stuff. Does Ruth work with gouache as well, Holly? Okay, I'm going to go in with a smaller brush here to figure out this tree shape, because right now I'm not crazy about it. She does like little magical forests. Cool. Yeah, there's definitely like a type of gouache painting, I feel like, that I see quite a bit, like on the internet, and I don't know how to explain it. It's very like cinematic almost, like it looks like maybe like backgrounds of a movie, like an animated movie, or what's the term for that? It's very, I'm not sure how to explain it. It's really pretty. I think it's really pretty. My favorite gouache artists are oil painters. I've noticed, like, they're painters that primarily paint with oil and have, recently picked up gouache to supplement their oil practice, and, notice that gouache is way less toxic and easier to clean up, and it seems like, yeah, cinematic. It seems like a lot of oil painters who are using gouache, they paint with gouache like they paint with oil, and that seems to be what really like sparks my interest whenever I see those pieces. I love when I can't tell the difference. Like when I see a gouache piece and I'm like, is that oil or gouache? That's what I love. I'm not there, I don't think, but that's the stuff that like stops me in my tracks. Some people who do that, who I'm thinking of right now, are Haiti Jo Summers. She's out of the UK. She's an amazing oil paint. She paints in all kinds of different mediums, but I think her primary medium is oil, and she got like a Himi jelly gouache set, and she just started painting all these gouache paintings, and I was just like, are you kidding? Like, they're just so beautiful and loose, and I love her work so much. She has a lot of videos, like DVD recordings and stuff, where she teaches a bit about like her technique. So if you're looking for more education, she's definitely worth looking into. And then I mentioned him last time, but Scott Christensen, he's like a living master, and he paints beautiful gouache pieces. And like I was saying, like sometimes he posts gouache pieces, and I'm like, there's no way that's gouache. That must be oil, and then it's gouache, and I'm like, oh my god, he's so good. And he also has an education platform online called Adventure Painting. And I mentioned that last time too, but it's really amazing. I really like Impressionism and plein air painting, so I agree with you about oil painters who picked up gouache. Yeah, it's the coolest. Okay, I'm gonna let that kind of settle in there, And then I'm going to try to come in with these darker tones here. Always looking for more education. Can you repeat the name of the woman you were just talking about? I looked up the man from last time. Yeah, her name is Haidee Jo Summers. So Haidee, I think. Jo Summers. She's amazing. She has this beautiful studio in England where she lives, and I just love everything she does. So this area, this foreground here, like I said earlier, is much darker. So it's essentially these kind of ochre-y rust colors, but in shadow. So I'm going to try to recreate that. So I've got some burnt sienna, and I'm mixing that in with some of this green that I made earlier. So if you haven't noticed, I try to really pick up from the other paint piles that I've already made. I like how colors can sort of feed into new colors. I think it creates nice like harmony within your painting if you do that. So like, you know, I want this to be lighter right now. So instead of reaching for a clean white or a clean yellow or a clean one of these lighter values that I've mixed, I'm just going into this lighter pile here to lighten it up. And that's kind of nice because it like usually will gray down your color. It'll kind of mute it a little bit more, which I always like to do. So let's see. Still a little bit too dark. I think I'm going to try to go, yeah, I think this tone here. And I kind of like how the pink is poking through in this spot. So I'm just going to try to be a bit intentional about where I'm allowing that to come through, where I'm allowing that to happen. I really like it in this spot. And then this area here kind of flattens out. Who are some of your favorite gouache artists, Holly? I'm always looking for new people to be inspired by. The Talons tubs, I thought they were tempera gouache. Do you know how it compares to normal gouache? I see the different descriptions, but it's so hard for me to parse these things. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know yet. I'm going to get my tubs of gouache should be arriving tomorrow. So I will let you know. Maybe I'll try to, I'm trying to be more active on YouTube and just like post more on YouTube. So maybe I'll make a video or like a comparison video about the few different gouaches that I've been trying out lately. I recently got poster paint which has been really cool. I mean, I don't know, some people are really intense about how they are like, it's not gouache, but I'm like, it feels like gouache. It really acts almost identical to me. So I don't know. So far, it's really nice. I got those. I've wanted to try them for a while, but I got them mostly because I couldn't get my hands on these Talons gouache that I finally found. So maybe I'll do like a little comparison about the Nicker poster paints, my regular gouache setup here, and then the Talons that come in the tubs. If they actually come in the tubs. I swear I keep having this feeling that they're going to arrive like in tubes. It's going to be like, psych, it's not actually what you wanted. Holly, do you paint with just tubed gouache like Winsor & Newton, or do you have a brand that you like? Okay, so I'm just trying to create, I'm going to be careful because I could see that I'm starting to kind of muddy this up here. But I want to create like a distinct value shift between this midground and the foreground here. So I'm going to just try to be cautious of how I do this. Guys, I can't believe this is number 98. I have like 3 left and then I'm done. Yeah, you are one of my faves, and I do like a bunch of the fussy little cottage scenes by Laurie Pemberton, etc. I flit back and forth between urban sketching, gouache, and drawing quick portraits. Nice. Yeah, I love Laurie Pemberton stuff. I've been like following her forever, since I feel like before she was even creating art. I love her whole aesthetic and her like Northeast vibe. But I grew up in the Northeast, so anytime I see anything like autumnal Northeastern like that, it always just feels really nostalgic to me. And yeah, so I really want to get into more urban sketching. I mentioned this in the last live, but as soon as I'm done with this challenge, my plan is to really focus in on structures and architecture, because it just feels like so hard for me, and I want to get better at it, because I want to be able to just like, I love visiting cities, and I love going to like museums and doing all that stuff when I'm traveling, and I don't want to feel like I'm necessary. I mean, I love going out into the countryside whenever I'm traveling, but I want to feel like I can just sit down anywhere or stand up anywhere and just paint or draw whatever's in front of me and not feel limited by my ability. So even if it's not like amazing, I just want to feel like I can do it if I was there. And I just signed up for the Domestica course by, oh shit, I'm gonna forget his name now. Dave something. I'll have to look it up, and maybe I'll post it in the description. But he's an urban sketcher. He has a Domestica course, and I just loved how he was explaining the art of keeping a sketchbook, and how his sketchbooks are like kind of his, mementos from his life. So like, I don't know. I feel like there's something about artists who, no, not Tommy. I love Tommy's stuff. Tommy he does the gouache, which I love so much. Oh my God, he's so amazing. This guy he does some gouache too, but his stuff is mostly line work. So he does actual drawing and sketching, and he works a lot with like cross hatching, and I think he's Colombian, but he lives in Spain. And so the class he teaches is in Spanish, but Domestica always has the subtitles if you don't speak Spanish. Or read Spanish, but I'll look it up and I'll put it in the comments because I took the course, or I'm taking it right now, and I'm really enjoying it. Let's see. Okay, sorry, I'm getting distracted by the comments, or I'm trying to read and speak at the same time. So I'm still really just following tutorials with painting. Typically use the exact colors, brushes Ruth Wilshaw uses while I follow her tutorials. Winsor, Newton, Holbein, Arteza. Yeah, I haven't used Arteza gouache, but I've seen a lot of people use them. Your name of this, no bad parts, is such an urban sketchy motto. I love it. What is Tommy's last name, please? I can't remember what his last name is, and I'm scared to. Here, wait, no, I can do this on my computer. Let's see. I will tell you everything now. I forgot that I have a computer right in front of me. So maybe not. No, it's gonna work. My computer's like, why do you think I can handle all of this? I'm just gonna go to the student dashboard. It's so funny how reliant I've become on like Instagram for remembering things. Like, even like when if I ever try to like tag an artist, I'm like, whoa, I don't register what that person's name is. I just recognize it when I look at it. Like Tommy's, like I know when I see his name, I'm gonna be like, yeah, of course, I knew that, but I can't remember it right now. Almost there, guys. Okay. So the urban sketcher that I was mentioning, his name is David Morales, Morales, and he has a couple Domestika courses. I'm taking the Fill Your Sketchbook with Illustrated Diary. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, and it's super inspiring. I love it. I love his style of drawing. Yeah, I'm so inspired by that. And I keep a sketchbook, but I want to get more engaged with that practice. I did. Tommy Kim is his name. Yes, I love him. He's so good. I think last year was the first time I actually ever finished a sketchbook in my entire life, and so I'm 37 years old. I've been making art since I was a kid, and the idea of creating a sketchbook, I think, just holds so much weight because you have a lot of, I don't know, expectations about what a sketchbook should look like. You want every page to be this masterpiece or, be representative of something that you're proud of. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the art community Cameo, but they have a sketchbook challenge every year where you finish an entire sketchbook in 1 month. And I did that last year, in the spring. I think it was last year, and I just did a small moleskin, but I finished it in a month, and it felt so good to complete it. And since then, I think I'm on like my third or fourth. Is that true? Was that just last year? Maybe it was the year before. I feel like COVID like messed up my perception of time. But either way, I'm on like, I think my fourth sketchbook right now. And I think it's just a really good practice to have a sketchbook with you at all times. And so that's my next goal. Once this is done, I'm going to just have my sketchbook and I'm going to try to draw or paint from life every single day and just set a timer for myself and do like a 30-minute sketch or painting. Because I want to make sure that I'm not getting too hung up on, making things look good. I think especially once you are doing something for a while, you start to see what your kind of strong points are as an artist, and it's really easy to just stick to those things because they make you feel good. Like, if you can finish a landscape or finish a portrait and feel like that looks good to me, or I am pleased by the result of that, there's nothing wrong with that feeling. But I think for me, I'm interested in feeling that way, like, and if I start to feel that way too many times in a row, that's usually my cue to do something more challenging, like to challenge myself in some way. And that's not just because I'm like a glutton for punishment. It's because I really want to grow as an artist, and I want to I want to grow as an artist in many different areas. So I don't want to ever get stuck in one thing or feel like I'm creating crutches for myself, if that makes sense. And there's just so much to learn. Like, I feel like it's never ending how much opportunity for learning there is when it comes to painting and rendering. And so I'm like, okay, I don't want to like waste time just like feeling good. I want to use my time wisely and like really learn as much as possible. Okay, let's see. I didn't take any art classes in school and really grew up thinking art wasn't for me, so I'm really drinking from the fire hose. Yeah, art is for everyone, for sure. I think that's cool. It's cool that you're doing it now, and I know you mentioned that you have kids or a kid, and I think it's just like such a cool, important practice to have an art practice if you feel called to it, because it's something that really brings you in the moment. And speaking from my own experience as a parent, I think it's really easy, especially as women, to get really drowned in the role of mothering, and I don't want to ever accept that, or like I want to always try to create space for myself to be a complex human being that isn't just here to take care of other people. And art seems to be a really quick route to that feeling for me. I was also wondering what surface you're painting on. Do you buy it in such small sizes, or are they handmade? So this is a cold press crescent illustration board. This is what the back of it looks like. And they're nice and thick. So this is one of my favorite surfaces to paint with gouache on. It's got a really subtle cold press texture to it. I don't know if the camera's picking up on it. It's not super textured, but it is textured enough that I feel like it grabs the paint nicely. These, I think you probably could buy these cut down. I have these cut at a local store. You can cut them yourself. I tried to cut them myself, and it was pretty tedious and painful. And I probably wasn't using the right tool. But yeah, I know plenty of artists who cut their illustration boards down to whatever size they want. And you can get them small. You can get them in pretty big sheets. I think I have like a 12 by 16 somewhere. I think most of these were cut down from the 12 by 16. I think they go up to like 24 by 36 even, like a poster size. but they're awesome, and especially for such small pieces, it's really nice because I didn't want any buckling, on the page. So because these are already so thick, that kind of takes care of that. Just like using a bigger brush. Yeah, for sure. Using a bigger brush, do you mean like as far as putting yourself outside your comfort zone? I think using a bigger brush is usually a really good way to do that for sure. So just kind of dry brushing in some of this burgundy color here. Okay, where are we at? Let's see. There's a little bit of like a little spot underneath the trees where it looks like the sun is hitting it, and I think that's going to create some nice separation. So I'm going to try to get that in there. Yes, your comfort zone. Yeah, for sure. I'm a big believer in going toward discomfort, which a lot of my family thinks I'm kind of crazy for, but I don't know. I just feel like we're here for such a short period of time, and if there's opportunity for growth in some area, then I want to go toward that, And lots of times there is discomfort where there is growth, so I get curious about that. Not just in art, but like in life. So just going to dry brush in some of this warmth. I love that spot in the middle, how the light is hitting it, and I really want it to pop. I'm not sure that I'm getting it to pop quite yet, and I'm scared that if I keep fussing around here that I'm going to muddy it up, but it's okay. The nice thing about gouache is that we can paint pretty opaquely over whatever we've done, so I try to not need like a ton of layers, just because I think it looks more, there's something about like getting like, making very intentional marks that suggest what you want, like that first like 1 to 3 layers. I feel like typically when I start getting into like more and more layers, that's usually when I start to muddy things and the kind of vibrancy of the piece can get lost. But if it does, which it will, because sometimes that happens, the nice thing about gouache is that you can usually get it back, at least to some extent. So let's see. Consistency is a huge part of gouache, and I feel like I'm finally really getting the hang of the consistencies that I personally like. I really like the ability to texturize with gouache. I think that that is very pretty and very pleasing to my eye. And I also think it's important to mix it up with different kinds of textures. So I do try to be conscious of if there's going to be a lot of texture in this kind of ground plane, then do I want to introduce a ton of texture into the sky? I'm going to still dry brush a little bit of white or warm white over the sky to imply some variation in the sky color, but because there's a lot of texture happening down here already, I'm going to try to make sure that at least if I do add texture to this area, that I'm doing it with like a much bigger brush and those strokes are not all the same as these ones down here. how's it going? I don't know if anybody else is here except you, Holly. How's the painting going? Any rough spots yet? And at this point, because I've got my basic block, the block end's been here for a little while, I'm not super concerned with like finishing one section and then moving on to the next. I try to hop around as much as I can because I think typically when we paint one spot, it will change our perception of another spot of the painting. So, and we can't really know how it's going to change until we've worked on those other spots. Hi, Rosette. So, I'm going to try not to go crazy here with this road, but I do want to imply that there's a bit of a road here that's kind of breaking things up. And I'm going to do that with just like a really cool light value. And I like that it's kind of peeking through and then kind of disappearing behind different spots of the landscape. Nice. So one thing I'm seeing here is that there's a bit of repetition happening in these shapes that I just made. So I try, if I see repetition in any marks that I make, I try to break that up a bit because, when it comes to composition, I'm still learning a lot about composition. I feel like composition is something that really is tricky and weird, and there's like there are many schools of thought, I guess, around composition, or there's some standard schools of thought around composition, but I also think that just like any rules, especially in any kind of creative field, they can be played with or broken or whatever. But I have noticed that my eye, when I see a repetitive shape or like a tangent in a painting or in a drawing, it distracts me. It almost like, it feels like, like when you're watching a movie and the writing or the dialogue in the movie or the acting is not very good, it sort of takes you out of the experience of watching a movie. Like you can't, it like interrupts your ability to suspend your disbelief. And that's usually how I can tell, for me, my gauge of like, is a movie good or not is, was I able to go along for the ride? Like, was I able to watch the movie and almost forget that I was watching the movie and just be invested in the story that was being told? But when the elements of that story are not, if they interrupt your ability to do that, to me, that's when I'm like, oh, I didn't enjoy that as much, or it didn't like succeed in its goal, which was to tell a story, because I couldn't pay attention to the story because this thing kept taking me out of it. That's kind of how I feel about composition when it comes to paintings or drawings. Like, if a part of a painting or a drawing, if the part of the composition takes me out of the piece, then it sort of isn't achieving the goal, which was to, take the viewer like on a ride or tell them a story or take them on a trip. If it's especially for landscapes, I feel like, you know, you can almost envision like walking through the landscape. And if there's a piece that feels almost like, wait, I can't keep walking through this now because now I know this is a painting, or like I don't know if that's coming across right, but there's something about it that just interrupts my experience of viewing something. So I've found that when I have something very symmetrical or very repetitive or very like not so much dead center. I know that's kind of a no-no in composition. We don't want things to be like right in the dead center. I sometimes feel like that works. But yeah, so this section here, I think bringing that one over kind of helped that. And then I think this back here is just a little bit too much. So I'm going to just soften that out a little. Cool. Okay, I'm glad that made sense. Okay, so this is nice and kind of abstract up here. I think I'm happy with the foreground. I do want to add a little bit more interest back here. I think this midground is really the area that I want to work on the most. Kind of edit the shapes of things. I think this tree is frustrating me. Cool, okay, good. I'm glad that helped. So going back in, trying to lighten this up a teeny bit more. And then while that's drying, I'm going to do a little bit of variation down here in these far off trees. So one of the things that I think about, or I try to think about, I often forget about this when I'm painting, but I feel like my paintings go much smoother when I do think about this, is I try to think of limiting my painting to, oh, perfect, good, you're going to like it, to 3 to 5 values. So when I can get it to 3, I really feel like that makes it easier for my brain to understand. But so if I'm squinting at this right now, I've got the value of the sky, the value of the mountains, and the value of these upward moving features like the trees, and then the ground value. So like typically if you were going to limit a landscape to 3 values, you would have the sky and ground plane be 1 value, the lightest value. Your midtone would be, you know, maybe something off in the distance, like a mountain. And then your darkest value would be the upward moving objects, like trees or rocks or bushes, things like that. In this one, because we've got a few different depths going on. I've got a few more than that. So if I squint at this right now, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I was, so let's say I've simplified this painting. Let's assume that I've simplified it to 4 values, even though there might be, yeah. Let's say I've simplified this to 4 values. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have any other variation within those values. That's something that took me a little while to understand, I feel like, because a lot of the classes I was taking with different teachers were talking about how you want to just keep your painting to 3 values. And I was like, how in the world can I paint this very complicated scene with only 3 values? And I think how I eventually understood that, and I'm not sure if this is what they were trying to say, but it's something that helped me, is the block in, when I first put in the block in a painting, that should be about 3 values, 3 to 5 values. That should be that. And then once that block in is in, I can play around with the values within each plane, but you just want to make sure that if you're going to put, like if I'm going to go back here and put a darker value in the trees back here, that's fine, as long as it's not too much coverage that it takes away from the overall value of that section. Does that make sense? I just thought I'd share that because that was like a big kind of eye-opener for me. I feel like that took me a little while to kind of grasp, and once I did, it felt like, it was like one of those like aha moments. Okay, that tree is not bugging me as much, but it's still a little annoying. I think I maybe leaned it over a little bit too much. Yes, for sure. Holly said, it makes sense, but I'll have to hear it and practice it another 40 to 60 times before it sinks in. Yes, as with anything that we learn, it takes a lot of repetition for sure. I'm the exact same way. I love those moments though so much. Like once something makes sense, it is like the best feeling. It's one of the best feelings about life to me is when I can feel my brain like click, when it's like, oh my God, that's what they've been talking about, or that's what I was trying to, like it, I feel like there's so many times when I've been learning something new where my brain is just struggling to understand what it means, and then when it finally does, it's like it feels like there's like a party going on in my mind. That's the best feeling ever. Okay, so I'm just gonna put in a few other little sections back here just to abstract these trees a little bit more. I was a middle school teacher, and sometimes kids would cry when it clicked, and obviously I would cry too. Aw. It's so cool. I know, I don't think I really, valued learning when I was a kid. I think I just, I don't know. I mean, I won't get into, the complexities of my childhood, but school was not an environment that I felt very inspired by. I kind of just skated by. I got, B's and C's, unless I was in, an art class or photography class or poetry class, something like that that actually was interesting to me, then I would do better. But I just never really found my relationship to learning until I was much older. And I think it's because learning is like so vulnerable. Like, to learn something new, you have to be okay with being bad at it to start with. And I think there's this really intense vulnerability to picking up a new hobby or a new skill, because you have to just be okay with sitting in the discomfort of not knowing how to do something for a while. And I think when I was younger, I was just like too insecure to really do that. And yeah, I feel very grateful that as I've gotten older, that's something that I've become more comfortable with, and actually feels like a huge part of my life now. I'm constantly learning new things, and I'm constantly wanting to learn new things. And when I do learn new things, it is, like I was just saying, it's just like, it's one of the sources of real joy in my life now, to learn something new, which I think is why painting has really kind of really grabbed my attention for the last few years, because it's never ending. Like, the learning in painting and in art and rendering, it is, I can't imagine ever feeling like there's not something to learn about drawing and painting. I think, and that's, as for somebody like me who finds such joy in learning, it is like the best thing ever to think that, like, oh my God, I could be learning this till I die, and I will always feel like there's something more to learn. Like, that is so exciting to me. And just like takes the pressure off too, because you're like, well, there's no place I'm trying to get to then, you know? Like, I mean, I'm trying to get to this painting right now. Like, I'm trying to get to what I'm envisioning in my mind. So I have a goal here, but like, I'm never going to arrive at like my artist space. Like, I'm always going to just want to be close. I'm going to want to just like keep going and going and going. And it's going to help me see things. Like, I think one of the other pieces of painting that has surprised me is how it's affected the way that I see the world around me. And I think especially when you do plein air painting, like, I mean, it sounds kind of cheesy, but it really makes the world like so colorful, because you are noticing colors in a way that, you know, most normal people who are just walking around do not notice it. And like, you know, to have moments where you're like, oh my God, I've just stared at this sunset for 30 minutes and tried to mimic the colors that I'm seeing as these colors are changing and moving. And it almost like it's kind of crazy, like, when you think about it. And now, you know, and then after you have this like really intense experience with the sunset, like, anytime I look at a sunset, I'm just like, how the hell are we all just walking around, like, agreeing that this is normal? That, like, the sky is, like, you know, neon pink and orange and turquoise and purple, and we're just like, la-di-da, gonna go make dinner now. Like, it really makes you check in with, like, the environment and be like, whoa, like, we really turn such a blind eye to things, you know, and it's crazy. And I feel, yeah, like, it sometimes it makes me feel like I'm like high when I get out of painting sessions, or when I see the effects of these painting sessions on my life. I'm just like, it just feels like such a gift. So, okay, I'm going to stop cheesing out about painting, but I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. Oh my God, yes, vulnerability. Kids would be like, I'm not good at reading. And I'd be like, oh, perfect. This is a class for people who need to learn about reading. Yeah, perfect. I know, I love that, like, it's so sad, I think, that we get stuck on this, like, I'm not good at something. Because I'm like, well, nobody's good at anything. Like, or like my husband always makes fun of me because I get really like not triggered, but like I have had a lot of hobbies in my life, and people will often say like, oh, you're so talented at something or at things. And not, I know everybody means well when they say that, and it's like obviously a compliment, and I usually just like smile and say thank you, but like I'm like, it doesn't actually feel like a talent. Like if I have a talent at all, my talent is that I just want to learn things, because like nothing that I've gotten good at, quote unquote, is something that was natural. Like I wasn't naturally good at anything. Like none of us are. You have to practice and you have to learn and kind of dedicate time to that. So yeah, I think that's such a great lesson to give to kids, because it's such a misconception. I think that people believe they have to be just like proteges at everything that they pick up. That's just like not how it works, unless you are a like miracle child, which I guess those do exist. I am not one of those people. I know what you mean. I'm so obsessed with people's faces right now. How long have you felt this way about art and the world? I'm hoping it's not just a honeymoon phase with me. No, yeah, I mean, I guess at least a few years. Like I started, I think when I started painting landscapes, so it's been about 3 years since I started painting landscapes, and the love affair has just gotten more and more intense over time. And yeah, I don't know that it's something that goes away. It's just like it gives you a different perspective on things. And I totally hear you about faces. Like painting portraits, I think the way that I'm talking about how plein air painting has affected the way that I observe the environment, like I do believe portrait painting does the same thing for humans. And I think that's so cool, because I like painting for me is such a practice and acceptance in a lot of different areas. Like you're accepting the world around you. You're accepting your reference. You're accepting your reference and also changing what doesn't work for you. You're accepting yourself and your limitations as an artist. So it kind of like, it feels like such a meditation. It feels like such a practice in accepting the moment for what it's giving you right now. And if you think of transferring that idea onto humans, like, you know, that's what else is there except learning how to accept all humans and all humans' limitations, and have compassion for them and have acceptance for like their complexity. Like that's like what we're doing here, right? I think. So yeah, I do think portrait painting can do that big time for sure. Okay, I'm just gonna step back a teeny bit here and see what we're looking for. You're saying so many of the things I say to my husband at like 12:30 a.m. Yeah, same girl. My husband's like, we're like opposite. I'm a night owl, and he is like dead tired by 9 p.m. So like when I'm like coming alive at night, he's like falling asleep. So we have a lot of those, like I start getting really passionate and, you know, feeling kind of manic about things, and he's like nodding off while I'm talking to him. It's pretty ridiculous. Okay, I think I'm gonna lighten up this sky a bit, and then we'll go from there. I think I want to create some more bright pinks or reds throughout this middle section, and then we'll see where we're at. What time is it? It is 2 o'clock. Okay, cool. So I'm thinking that these lives will be somewhere around, you know, 2 to 3 hours. I have to. Oh wait, I just went into the pink, and I didn't want the pink. I wanted the blue or the white. I usually pick my son up around 3, so that will be my natural alarm. But I think we'll be done with this before that. So I just put a little bit too much water in this white pile. So I want to make sure that I am having the right consistency for this, because it will be important for dry brushing over the sky here. And I did add a little bit of turquoise. Let's see. Yeah, that's too wet. Oh shit. I had paint in my hand. Careful when you use your hands to smooth out edges. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. I guess we are gonna go in for the pink. Okay, so I've got some alizarin crimson there, some cad orange. I'm gonna pull some of that white. Not too much of the white, because the white will desaturate the color, and I do want this to be pretty vibrant. And I'm gonna try to, that's pretty dark. Try to, still pretty dark. Oh, it's so pretty though. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to follow your painting process. I will definitely get back to this video. If you can save it to your YouTube, that would be great. Yes, I for sure will save it. And I'm planning on trying to get back on here to do these every week. So maybe Wednesdays, maybe Thursdays. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me, Rose. I really appreciate it. Oh yeah, totally. Go to bed. Get some sleep. Thanks for staying up late with us. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, so this section here is the closest section to us in this kind of mid-ground area. So I'm going to keep these shapes bigger and more vibrant. And then the further back I get within this area, I will get smaller and less vibrant. Kind of just more suggestive back here. It is amazing what we can do with such a tiny little painting. Okay, I think that helps me. I might add a little bit more yellow to this front section. Cool. Okay, I like that. And I'm just reactivating some of these green piles to mess with these shapes of the trees back here a little bit more. And I'm going to take some of this red, bring it over here, and just kind of try to create a little more interest at the bottom base of these foreground trees here. Okay, I think we're getting close. Just gonna get some of this white. And this is giving me an opportunity to kind of soften this edge here of the mountain. And I'm putting just a teensy bit of water here because I'm going to smooth the paint out up top, I think. Just added a little bit of turquoise. And then just smoothing it out a bit more, just with like a damp brush. Checking my finger. And then while I've got this round brush, I'm going to see if there are any spots where it makes sense to carve out some of these tree shapes a little bit more. So these are pretty far away, so we don't want to get too crazy with it, but there might be some spots where it makes sense to kind of break the shape up. Okay. I think that's feeling good to me. I'm just seeing if there's anything that's really kind of standing out to me that is interrupting my experience of viewing the painting, and just seeing if there's anything I can do to smooth those areas down. Okay, I think this is done. I think it's done. I might revisit it once it's totally dry, but it feels pretty dry already, actually. I think we're good. Number 98. Done. So 2 more, and then I'm done with the gouache minis. And then I have the very fun job of scanning and posting all of these babies, which is going to take me forever. And then they will all be for sale. So hopefully you guys can get your hands on some of these little guys. Okay, do you have any other questions, Holly, before I sign off? Thanks so much for helping me figure out all of the technical issues. So we know now that we want an external microphone, and hopefully this blurry situation will work itself out. I think it may have been a connection thing, because I think it got better once I turned the Wi-Fi off. So, okay, I'm gonna head out. Listen to a good podcast or watch a good show while you scan. That's a good idea. I should do that. I'm actually listening to an audiobook that has been very entertaining, so I should just do that. I still have some time left on it. I should probably get started now. But, okay. Thank you so much for hanging out, Holly. I really, really, really appreciate you helping me out with all the getting started stuff with the video and the sound and everything. So I will be back hopefully next week, and by then my 100 gouache minis will be complete. So if you're watching this on the replay and you want to see the rest of these, just head to my Instagram account, which is right here on the top of the screen, Rebecca Caridad Art, and I post on there almost every day. And hopefully I'll be